Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 4 of the Merry Christmas Ornament tutorial. This is the Merry Christmas ornament that we are making. It is so cute. I love it so much. It is so colorful. And today we are going to be making the unit called Fourth Lowlights. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those 3 videos listed down below in the description. That way when you're finished with this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have opaque yellow AB, opaque black, silver lined light blue, and silver lined green. Just to keep it simple, I'm going to call this yellow, black, blue, and green. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire in the color Crystal, and this is 4-pound thread. You could also use 6-pound thread. And I like to use a size 10 beading needle. You could use a size 11 or a size 12 if that's what you have. For implements, I like to use my long nose pliers, and to cut my thread, I use scissors. And then to end the tail, I'm going to show you in today's video how I use the fire method. So let's thread our needle with about 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So I have threaded my needle and now I'm going to pick up my first 3 beads, which are all 3 black. Then I'm going to take my 3 black beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of my thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Now I'm going to tie a square knot. So let's cross over on the top and then we can pull our tail through. And then we'll do that again. Let's cross over on the top and pull our tail through. So now we have what looks like a little snowman. I'm going to put 2 fingers in the bottom loop, and that's where the beads are. And then I'm going to pull on the tail thread and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Just like that. Now I have my tail, and I'm not going to get it I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I am going to get it super close so that it melts the tip. And it turns the tip of that thread right into like a little knot or a little bead. So now with my fingers in the loop, I'm going to be pulling on the long thread while I'm twisting the loop until that little knot on the end of the tail meets the long thread, just like that. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm just going to pull that knot while I'm pulling the long thread until the knot reaches the 3 beads. And it makes this little teensy triangle of beads, and that completes our first row. So now it looks like our knot is right in the middle of those 2 beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tug the long string until that knot looks like it's coming out of one of the beads. And it also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead also. So now let's pick up 2 more black beads. And it looks like we're coming out of this bead right here. So let's sew through the bead that the thread is not coming out of. and then we're going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of the beads that are below them, and I like to call those buddy beads. So let's pick up 2 more black beads, and we're coming out of this bead. Let's sew through the next bead, and once again trying to get those new beads to sit right on top of their buddies, just like that. Let's pick up 2 more black beads. There's a lot of black beads in today's pattern, just to forewarn you. Okay, so we're coming out of this bead right here. Let's sew through the next bead, and we're also going to sew through the bead right below it. So it's buddy bead. So when we sew through 2 beads, that's what we call stepping up. It is actually putting our thread in position to start the next row. So we have completed row number 2, and now we get to start row number 3. Let's start by adding 2 black beads and sew through the next, always making sure those beads are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up 1 black bead, and we're coming out of this bead right here. So we're going to skip the one that's set downward, and we're going to sew through the bead that is poking up. That's what we're going to call our up bead. Now let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. And now let's pick up 1 black bead. Skipping the down bead, we're going to sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up 2 black beads and sew through the next. And the last bead in this row is going to be 1 black bead. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead, and also sew through its buddy, or the bead right below it. So we're sewing through 2 beads, which means we are finishing row number 4, and we are ready to start row number 5. Oh, I mean, we just completed row number 3, and now we get to start row number 4. Oh my goodness. I feel a lot of editing coming on me for this video. I don't know why. Alrighty, so let's start with 2 black beads and sew through the next. Now we'll pick up 1 black and sew through the up, and 1 black and sew through the up. Now let's pick up 2 green beads and sew through the next. Then 1 black bead and sew through the up. 1 black and sew through the up. Two black beads and sew through the next. one black, and sew through the up, and one black, and sew through the up and the bead below it, sewing through 2 beads, which means we're stepping up. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start by adding 2 black beads, then 1 black, then 1 yellow, one green, two black, one black, one black, one black, two black beads, one black, one black, and one black, and sew through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 black beads, one black, one yellow, one yellow, one black, two black beads, one blue, one black, one black, one black, two black beads, one black, one black, one black, and one black, sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 black beads, one black, one black, one yellow, one black, one black, two black beads, one blue, one blue, one black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 yellow, 1 yellow, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 9. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 yellow, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black and 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 10. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 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 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green and 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 11. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green and 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and sew through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start with 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 2 black beads, 1 black, 1 black, 1 green, 1 green, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, 1 black, and 1 black. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and that completes our 12 rows. I almost fell asleep saying 1 black, 1 black, 1 black. Just kidding. That was just a lot of black to say. But anyways, okay, so if this is the first triangle you've ever done with me, this is where we start adding our connection beads. Our connection rows are put in place so that we can connect our units together and then create the entire ornament, right? So we need beads to connect our units to. So some of our sides are going to have connection beads and then others are not. In this particular unit, we are not going to have any connection beads down this side, but we are going to have connection beads on this side, and we are not going to have any on this side. So to start that off, let's start by capping our corner by adding 1 black bead. Good thing I had coffee today. Oh, I'll talk to you about that in just a second. Okay, so now we're not going to add any connection beads on this side. So what I like to do is flip my unit over, and then I'm going to, without picking up any more beads, I'm going to sew up 1 bead at a time per row. And I'm going to sew all the way up until I get to this corner bead right here. Now, I like to sew up these beads along the quadrant line, but you could really pick any random bead as long as you're not skipping a row. If you skip a row, you'll end up seeing your thread, and you don't want to see your thread. So just sew 1 bead up each row until you get to the top right here. And I will talk about my coffee. Today is the first day of pumpkin spice season at one of the really big coffee companies. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. Anyways, I happened to get a pop-up, and I don't generally buy coffee a lot when I'm out and about like that. I drink my coffee at home, mostly because I drink decaf, and I only drink like maybe 1 cup a day or something like that. So but I happened to see a pop-up, and so I was running errands, and I was like, oh my gosh, pumpkin spice is out. So I actually ran in and grabbed myself one from that famous coffee company, and I just enjoyed it. It was really great. So that is really the beginning of the holiday season for me, when that starts to come out. What really kicks it off is when I start decorating, and that really is on October 1st. So my question of the day for you, put it down in the comments so that we, can see what you love and what you do, and everybody kind of gets to know each other when it comes to this kind of stuff. I love it so much. This community is just so fun. But anyways, so tell me when the holidays kick off for you. Is it when you first start decorating? And if that's true, when is that? When do you start decorating? Or if you're anything like me, is it when, you know, certain things start to come out, like when the stores start adding fall things to their store, or maybe you start seeing Christmas trees in the store or something like that. So let me know down in the comments. I'm curious. Alrighty, so now we're up at this top. So what we're going to do is we're going to cap off this corner by adding one bead, and it turns it into a little point. And now we're going to be adding beads all the way down this row. Most of them are black. I'm going to call them out for you. The last one is not black. So one black, oops, and one black, 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 and one green. And now let's cap off this corner with one black bead. And now let's sew up without adding any more beads. Let's sew up 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now we're coming out of the top of this bead. We're going to do something that I call zigzag. We're going to sew down the bead right next to the one we're coming out of. And then we're going to sew up the bead right next to that one. That zigzag makes this bead on the corner, the last one that we just added, a little more secure. So now let's sew up 2 more beads, 1 and 2, and we'll zigzag again. Sorry, I forgot to turn off my notifications. I keep getting dings. Okay, so I always forget, by the way. If you don't know that already, I'm sure you do. Alrighty, so we're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it. And then we'll sew up the bead right next to that one, completing our second zigzag. Now let's sew up 2 beads, or 2 rows. 1 and 2. And now this bead is super secure. It's not going to come loose. So let's cut our thread, holding our thread with our long nose pliers, and then putting our scissors as close to the bead as possible without cutting the bead. Just snip off that thread. And that completes our 4th low light unit. You only need 1 of these for the project, so I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.